It worked. I think. Maybe. Is there any way to make... There. Okay. There we go. Okay, thank you. Tech support.
That's it.
I appreciate it. Um, why am I not seeing it? Okay, and I'm on delay. Fantastic. This is going to be super fun. Hello, knitters. Barbara Benson here. I'm an independent knitwear designer who also likes to make videos here on my YouTube channel, Watch Barbara Knit. It is a little bit of a chaotic mess right now. This is going to be really rough. So I have had to adjust my setup because we have completely broken down most of what could loosely be called my studio, and which is the other half of my bedroom. My computer is entirely packed. Oh, why is this? Remember to guard your privacy. I don't want to learn more. I just want you to go away. So what I have is I have my phone in front of me, but you're small, and like keeping track of the chat is going to be really challenging. So I have the chat. I have an iPad down here so that I can watch myself. But the thing is that I'm delayed from like me talking to what I'm saying here. So looking at myself is a little disorienting. So here, let me look at the chat. My golfer is not working on any project right now, as you do not know what to knit for the summertime. Let's blame Ravelry. Hopefully you will give me some good suggestions. Oh, so summertime knitting. Hello, Barbara Brian Wilson. You're working on an easy scarf for charity. Scarves for charity is always a good idea. Hi, Kathleen. You actually started your knitting. Rock on. Hello, Daniela. You're from Ontario. Excellent. Canadians. Love Canadians. Thank you, Robin. That is my tiara. I found it when I was packing and it stayed out. It was just up on, because it's really delicate, and it just got stuck on my headboard, well, my little shelfie shelf there. And so it was sitting there. I'm like, why shouldn't I put it on? It says knit pearl on it. You probably can't see it. It is my knitting tiara. And hello, Knit Eco Chic. Welcome. So glad you're here. Hello, Cindy. Is that a Jenny Lynn bed? That looks like my childhood bed. That is astounding that you recognize it. It is a Jenny Lynn bed. It is one of the pieces that was my mother's piece, and we just got it. And apparently it matched my crib. I have no idea. But yeah, that is a Jenny Lynn bed. I think everyone does need a tiara. I think tiaras are the perfect gender neutral accessory for any activity, so, except for swimming. I don't know about swimming tiaras, but other things, yes. Daniela, you have a tiara? Awesome. I think, Linda, I agree. I think that we should all wear tiaras at all time. I think that they are the most fantastic thing. When they updated, I think it was the Army's dress code for like the super high fancy dress for women officers, a tiara, there's actually a tiara version, which I just thought was fantastic. Your sister knit eco chic, Lindsay. So the crib and your thing, yeah, they were, apparently it was super popular in the 70s, I guess, because that's like my era when I was born. But we just we have it. I mean, I'm not particularly attached to it. It's not one of those things that, I mean, it is one of those things that I'm not 100% sure that is going to be moving to the West Coast with us, but it is a perfectly functional bed. So there's that. You got a tiara for your 70th birthday party. That is a fantastic 70th birthday gift. For my mother's 70th birthday, we got matching tattoos. So that was fun. No jumping in the bed. Oh, nice. Nice. No jumping in bed. Okay. So there was an actual knitting question, and it was what to knit in the summer. Where on the left coast? I'm actually going to be moving to the Seattle area. And it's funny because we are looking like, so it's the left coast of the country, but I think we are going to be at We're probably going to be staying, it's actually on the east coast of Lake Washington. So we're not going to be in like Seattle, like, so you've got like Seattle, which is between Lake Washington and the Elliott Sound, Elliott Bay. And we are looking at the other side of Lake Washington, which is Bellevue, Kirk something. I think we're looking at a place in Kennydale. So it's like on that, but not all the way over to Squamish. There's another lake, and that's where Microsoft is. And we don't want to get into that Microsoft business. There's too many people over there. So, but there's a lot of people. But yes, we're moving to the Seattle area, not into Seattle proper, because that's expensive. We cannot afford that. Okay. Have I found a local? Lindsay has asked me if I've found a local yarn store in Seattle. Actually, when we went out, my son and I went out over between Christmas and New Year's, and we actually drove around to really get a good idea of all the neighborhoods. And we did, in fact, visit 3 different yarn stores while I was there. And I think there were a total of at least 5. And then there's some that are further north and some that are further south. So there's going to be a plethora of yarn stores. And one of my big plans for the channel for Watch Barbara Knit is that I am hoping, with permission of the proprietors, to do a yarn store tour of each of the yarn stores that I can find in Seattle. So I think it'll be fun to share with y'all the new adventures and learning the ins and outs of the yarn scene, the fiber scene in the Seattle area. There's a lot of opportunities. Hopefully I want to get down to Portland at some point, maybe for the Rose City crawl, because apparently that's a big stinky deal. And actually, I believe that there is a festival, a fiber festival type thing that is going to happen in Seattle in like August. So I might be able to go to that. I don't know. It's going to be a lot of different stuff, and I'm really excited. Nice yarn store in Bellingham. See, there's so much cool stuff. I'm very excited about all of this. And it's, when we talked about this last month, that there's a very high probability it's going to significantly impact how, not how like physically how I knit, but like the kind of things that I knit. I'm sorry, I just got super distracted. I'm looking out my back. So just on the other side of this, actually, I think I can do this. Boop. Nope, that's not what I meant to do. There. That is what I'm looking out a window, right? That's the window. That is where you're looking at the place where my desk used to be and is no longer. There we go. I got super distracted because there was like a flashing something, and it was a drone. Somebody was flying a drone like over one of my neighbor's houses, and it really distracted me because, ooh, shiny. So it just totally did it. Bhutan. Hello, Bhutan. Welcome. Where am I moving from? I am currently in Sarasota, Florida. So unless I was in Miami, I don't think that this could be, I don't know that it's possible to move further, like, because I'm moving from like the bottom right-hand corner of the country to the upper left-hand corner of the country. It's probably going to take us about 4 days to make the trip. We have 3 vehicles. Luckily, we have 3 drivers. So that will be quite the cross-country trek. It'll be 3 vehicles, 3 drivers, and 2 birds, because we have burbs. And so that is going to be super fun. Oh, see, wild seeing the desk area. It's no longer a desk area, Lindsay. It is all gone. Because when you show your house, like this room, this bedroom is actually really big. And but I had essentially 2/3 set up as a bedroom, and then the back third of the room that you guys just saw was set up as my studio. It had the bookshelves that y'all are so familiar with, full of all my stuff, and then my computer, and I had 2 monitors, and they had 2 large, like, scraping the ceiling, lights that are my studio lights so that you guys can have a good picture, and then a dresser containing a large amount of my knitting accoutrements, all kinds of weird actually, and I just packed that up, and there's a whole lot that is not moving. It is like, nope, I don't need this anymore. Actually, it is moving because a lot of the stuff that came out of my chest of drawers it was a big green chest of drawers, is craft stuff. Stuff that I'm always like, oh, I might use that. I mean, there was a knitting loom. There were some knitting needles that I don't typically use, like straight needles, all kinds of weird little things that I have accumulated over the years as far as fiber arts goes. And I'm actually packing them and moving them with me because there is a store, and I think there's 2 locations in Seattle that I found that is essentially a thrift store, but only for arts and craft supplies. So that you can donate your arts and craft supplies, and then people can go there, and it's got all kinds of different arts and craft supplies. So I was definitely packed stuff, and I'm moving it, and I know which box it's in. It's in a flip top tub, and I know I'm planning on donating all of this stuff, but being able to bring that in and donate it, maybe I can get to talking to the people who run this really cool store and make some connections and, make some fiber friends. So that is why I'm actually moving that stuff as opposed to just donating it to a regular thrift store. Here, I think that this dedicated arts and crafts thrift store has a better chance of these materials actually being used by someone who is excited that they found it. So Lindsay says that one is one of these kinds of arts and crafts, secondhand arts and crafts, is opening near her. Very, very cool. Sounds dangerous to your wallet. I don't know, because it's a thrift store, so it might be actually a benefit to your wallet. They wanted to watch me from the sky. Yeah, I know. How many hours? Hang on. So Bhutan, do you like cold and rainy weather? It will be a change. I know it's going to be a change, and I know it's going to be an adjustment, and I'll adjust. Rain doesn't bother me. I've never really had, and the thing is really for half the year, it's really rainy here, but that is interspersed with brilliant sunshine. So it's the rain and the overcast that I think is going to be an adjustment. But you just got to learn to live with things a little bit. I think it doesn't get that cold there because it is on the coast. It is more temperate than you might think. It doesn't get like extreme cold. I actually lived in the Chicago area for a year, and I've experienced that kind of extreme cold, and I cannot handle that kind of extreme cold. But Seattle doesn't get that kind of extreme cold, so it'll be interesting. Kathleen Thompson has asked, how many hours do you knit in a day? Right now, I knit 0 hours in a day. All of my stuff is packed. I had to pack it because I need to focus on getting this house into a condition that it can be shown and sold, and it's just my priority has to be getting this move accomplished. When I am in active production of a pattern, there are times where I have knit anywhere up to 8 hours a day, depending on how quickly I needed something done. But it's really rough on my wrists and hands. Typically, if I'm going to sit down and knit for production purposes, I'm not going to knit any more than 4 hours at a stretch, maybe sometimes 5 hours, simply because of the damage that it can do to my hand, because I'm doing it multiple days in a row. The other thing is as for my job, for what I do, as you can see, I'm here on YouTube with y'all. It's so much more than knitting. What I do is so much more than the actual physical act of knitting, because I am just as likely in any given day when I am working to spend 8 hours in front of a computer editing a pattern or trying to get a chart to do what I want it to do, or filming and then editing a video like for YouTube, or any of these number of things, that doing research, trying to decide what kind of yarn I need to use, doing tech support, not tech support, doing pattern support, which is answering people's questions about my patterns. I check in on the Facebook group on a daily basis to see if anybody has questions there. I check in on Ravelry fairly frequently to see if anyone has tried to contact me in that manner. So knitting, just sitting down and knitting, is not as much of what I do as you might think. I'm willing to wager there are a very large number of recreational knitters, people who knit just like hobby knitters, that knit far, far, far more than I do. And a lot of the times, even if I am sitting down and knitting for several hours at a time, what I'm doing is swatching and not actually knitting on a piece that is going to be a finished piece, because I've got a lot of stuff to figure out. So that, I don't know if that's the kind of answer you were looking for, Kathleen, but that's where your question took me. Okay. Dun, 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 dun. Hello, Kathy in Indiana. I'm looking down at my iPad here to make sure I can get it. Store credit instead of donation receipt. That's a good idea. Cindy has asked me, I don't have a project available to relax with. I do not. As I said, that the amount of time I can knit is oftentimes restricted by the wear and tear on my hands and fingers and wrists and my shoulder. I have some shoulder issues. Anytime I have that I feel I can devote to knitting, it really has to be devoted to work. I don't do leisure knitting. It's just not, it doesn't fit into the plan right now. And I don't resent that. But it's just so people like to say, do what you love and you'll never work a day in your life. Like, that's the thing that they try to sell you on. And my counter to that is, if you turn your hobby into a job, you don't have a hobby anymore. The hobby is gone because it's now your job. So it's not, I mean, but if I didn't want to do it, I would just stop doing it. I still enjoy it. I still love it. And one of the reasons why I like to design is because it's very much like a puzzle to me, and I enjoy doing puzzly stuff. So it's just, but no, I don't really do any leisure or recreational knitting, because if I'm sitting there and I'm like, oh, I'm gonna knit, I'm like, or I could be working, and working usually wins. Thank you so much, Linda Walsh in Northern Illinois. Yes, Northern Illinois. The winters there are crazy. Oh, my squishmallow. I'm sitting, as you can see, and we have talked about, on my bed, and this is my squishmallow. That he's squishy, and he turns inside out. And he can also be polka dotty. My son gave me this for Christmas a couple years ago, or my birthday, I can't remember. So and he's very squishy, so I can't keep my hands off of him. Barbara Bryan Wilson, why is your tattoo now on your left arm? It always looked like it was on the right. This is my right arm. My guess is this setup that I have had to use has flipped the image in some way. If I had something that had text on it, I'm willing to wager that it might read backwards or something like that. Again, this is kind of a I have a tripod with a doohickey on it and the setup. So yes, it is my tattoo is on my right arm. This is my left arm. Doop. So this is my right ear. But I think it's interesting. It looks left-handed now. Hello, Kara. Thank you so much, Kara Patillo, for watching the live. I'm so glad that you joined us. Okay. Stitch Itch, thank you so much. She's encouraging people to give the thumbs up. If you want to click that thumbs up button, it lets YouTube know you're enjoying the little party we're having here. So it doesn't hurt. Okay, Michelle Hamilton. Oh, I didn't see that. You're about 40 minutes from Chicago. It gets really cold in Chicago. I lived in Mount Prospect, Illinois. Mount Prospect, I was right in the landing pattern of O'Hare. It was my first job out of college. I was freezing my buns off. I moved directly from South Carolina. I was like, nope, gonna die. Michelle Hamilton, I use a slip knot before casting on. On a few occasions, when I get to the slip knot to knit into it, row 1, my slip knot has become undone. Has this weird thing ever happened to you? I'm afraid, Michelle, that my slip knot has not ever come undone. And it could be the way that you are making your slip knot. I'm sure there's more than one way to make a slip knot, and maybe the slip knot you're making it's not cooperating. You should make it obey you because you're the boss. I believe I have at least one video that shows you how to make a slip knot. Any of my cast on videos should show you how to make a slip or how I make a slip knot. But you might want to investigate other techniques for making a slip knot if the one you're using is causing you frustration and irritation, because I can totally see that would be super annoying. Okay. Kathleen Thomas, what was my major? Oh, I guess when I said I graduated. So I have a degree, and the name of the degree is graphic communications, which sounds like in modern day, you would assume that I do some sort of graphic design or something like that, which I very, very much do not and have never. That is not my area. It was just the name of the program that I was in, and a better explanation would be printing and printing technologies. I essentially got a degree in a bachelor's of science in printing and printing technologies. In school, my education involved learning about all the different types of printing processes, and we actually had to run printing presses. I've run screen printing presses. I've run small offset lithography presses. I've run 40-inch offset lithography presses. I've run flexography presses. I ran a very large UV screen printing press. Any number of things. And what the program was to do was to teach us to understand all these different types of printing. And then also we took management and business courses so that we were prepared to go in and be like managers in printing companies. In Chicago, I worked for Field Container, which I don't know if it exists anymore, but we printed the packaging that other things go in, like like Haagen-Dazs. We printed the boxes that the individual single, when you buy a box that has like 4 or 5 singles in it. So we printed that. We printed the boxes for M&M, the Mars Dove bars. One of the major customers was Willy Wonka. That was one of the coolest boxes we printed, because we printed the nerds boxes, the little tiny treat size nerds boxes. They printed 64 up on a sheet. That was really wild. In Atlanta, I worked for Mead Packaging, which it was a large offset lithography web press kind of situation. Or was it flexography? I think it was flexography. And they printed the 12 and 24 packs that soda came in. So like Coca-Cola and Pepsi products, in just the long skinny ones, and then the 24, the bigger ones. They also had a sister plant in that area that I never got to visit that ran gravure presses, and they were printing like Anheuser-Busch, really, really high volume beer things. I worked for a screen printing, not a screen printer, but I worked for a Swedish, it was called Tetco, a Swedish high-tech screen printing supplies. So it made like the mesh and the pneumatic stretching devices and all kinds of interesting things to do with really, really, really high-end printing, screen printing. And I worked there. I worked for a company, the IPD, that printed like magazines and things like that, and and garbage, like the blow-ins for magazines, and just high volume, the mailers, like trash mail, spam mail. And I don't know. I work for a lot of different printing companies. I did work for a graphic design firm. The last job I had in my profession was working for a graphic design firm, and I was the project coordinator that got all the things that the graphic designers. Oh, thank you, Lindsay. Thank you for coming, Lindsay. Thank you for a good look on selling my home. Appreciate that. I was the project coordinator that was in charge of making sure that the things that the designers did got printed. Like, I jobbed everything out. So that was pretty cool, and managed the design process. So that was fun. So that was probably more of an answer than you wanted there. Okay, let's see what we got. Linda Walsh. I'm working on a square wreath for Christmas. Crochet, not knitting. It will go on my front door. That sounds really cool and different. I like the idea of a square wreath. And I totally see that being something that's better to crochet. Cara Patillo, what days and time do you go live so I can start watching your lives often? Thank you for asking, Cara. I go live at 7 o'clock, the 7 p.m. Eastern time, and this is probably going to change once I am no longer in Eastern time, the last Thursday of each month. Right now I'm just doing it once a month, and it's the last Thursday of each month, and that's what today is. So that is what, I don't know that it would be a whole lot of point in doing it more than once a month. Would y'all want to watch me more than once a month? Because I don't have a lot. I just yammer and yammer and yammer. Okay, Cindy has asked me, when did I start my knitting business? Can you explain to take out the kinks from frogged yarn after soaking? Okay, I'm going to go with Cindy. I do see your question, and I will do that. We will get back to me. If I miss it, let me know. So when I had a piece that I was doing for my book that I knit it, and it was just too big, so I had to frog the entire thing, but it was something I had received yarn support for, so I couldn't go back and ask them for like more yarn. So I totally understand. So what I had to do is I frogged it, and then I put it back into a skein. So I put it on my Swift and made the skein, right? And then tied it just like you do a skein. and then I took it still in its loop, but tied securely, and essentially blocked it. I put it in a lukewarm bath with the wool wash and let it soak for about 20 minutes. And then I spun it out in my salad spinner, because you don't want it to be waterlogged. If you don't do the salad spinner thing, do the thing where you roll it up in a towel and squish all the water out and get it so it's damp. And then I draped it over a hanger, like over the neck of a hanger. So it was hanging in a loop so that the weight of the damp yarn pulled the spaghetti out, because that's what I think it looks like when you've frogged something and it's all kinky like that. So that is the process I used. Now you don't, it's just the light weight of the yarn. If you wanted to like lay it over, so it's like two big U's over the things, you can do that. And I just hung it on my, in my spare bathroom, I hung it on the shower rod so that if it dripped, it wasn't going to make a mess. But it's essentially, you have to block them out. You're just blocking that. And then after that was done, I put it back on the Swift and rolled it back into a ball. And then I was ready to knit with it. So I don't know if that's helpful. I don't do this with any frequency. If you are, because it made me think of this, and I know this isn't what you asked. If you are getting sweaters from like thrift stores or something and frogging those and trying to get the kinky stuff out of those, it is the same process. But I always want to warn people that yes, this is a way that you can save on expense for yarn. But if you're going to get a natural fiber yarn from a thrift store, bring it home, put it in a freezer, freeze it for a couple of days, pull it out, let it come to temperature and let it sit at room temperature for a day or two, and then put it back in the freezer a second time and freeze it solid a second time. That way that if there are any moth or weevil or any kind of pests in it, you do not introduce those pests to the rest of your yarn stash or your finished knitted items. Just treat any natural fiber, if it's yarn, if it's a knitted item, any natural fiber that you get from a thrift store, treat it as suspect. Okay? Just please, please, please. I'm not telling you not to do it. I'm just, be careful. I've been bitten. Okay? Okay, Christina C. Yes, I love watching the lives each month. You're so knowledgeable and interesting. Oh, I'm glad you've learned. Random life things. I'm pretty good at random life things. Oh, my golfer. What is the level of difficulty of your beautiful "there is water at the bottom of the ocean" shawl? It is a challenging pattern. I'm not gonna pull any punches on that. It is an unusual construction. It's not unusual. I mean, it's a top-down triangle, but it's a top-down triangle, but the lace pattern I wanted to use did not jibe with it didn't match up correctly with the repeats of the construction. So I had to do some creative, because like it doesn't make an actual straight across the triangle. It kind of goes down, and then there's like this seaweedy part, and then there's a mermaid tail down the back. It's supposed to look like rippling fish. And it's reflected. It is a challenging knit. If you enjoy lace and you enjoy paying very close attention to the rows as you knit them, then you can definitely do it. It's not impossible, but it is a challenging lace knit. It is not a simple pattern. It is all lace, all the time. Like, yeah, I mean, it's, yeah. I do love that piece, and it is absolutely amazing in the yarn I designed it for, in that 100% silk. I think it just looks absolutely stunning. Um, it, it is a challenging piece. So that is what I'm going to say. I'd love to see people knit it, but it's for people who love knitting lace. That is what I would say. Okay. Desiree. I knitted a musselburgh hat and then needed to frog half of it, add more rows, then reknit it. Oh no, that's no fun. Add more rows and then reknit it. That's, you know what? When things don't behave, it's super, super frustrating. I have been there. I feel your pain. Kara is watching from Michigan and knitting a sweater. Awesome. You know what? I do not knit sweaters. That might change when I am in a much colder climate, but considering that I learned to knit and started knitting in Atlanta and then moved to Florida, sweaters just really have not been anything I've invested my time in. But I do have sweater patterns, and I have literally bought sweater patterns and gotten all the yarn for them, and they just never happened. So that's why I have extra yarn. Elizabeth Forrester, hello, hello. Have I already discussed the tariffs on Chicago needles? I don't know noodly squat about tariffs on Chicago needles. I don't know anything about that. It is not something I've stumbled across. So I'm sorry. I'm sorry. A squirrel just ran by. See, this is why I always would sit at my desk looking at my computer and not anything else, because over on this side, over here, and if I move this, it's going to cause problems, is our large, it's a sliding glass door. There's two that opens out onto like a little, and it's calling it a patio is super generous. It's a bunch of like concrete squares stuck in the ground with rocks. It's not a patio. But I closed the curtains, but there's a gap and a squirrel just ran by, and it totally, squirrel, it totally distracted me. Okay, where were we? Hopefully, Elizabeth, you might, if you have any information on that, please feel free to put it in the chat, Elizabeth, but I don't know anything about it. And since I don't have my other screen and my computer, I cannot do any like instant research, which are things that I think may have made me look smarter in the past, but I cannot do that today. I'm buying from Canada, tariffs is less than. I don't know. I don't know what's going on. Okay, so all the way back to the question that someone asked. At this point, I've remembered the question, but not the inquisitor. My hair is being crazy, isn't it? That curl is being crazy. What to knit in the summer? So, something that I like to knit in the summer is summer weight scarves that are just like decorative. Knitting them out of silk or cotton that are just little frilly things. I have several of them because there was one point I designed several of them. One's called Captive, one's called Fins. Did I do another one? But they're little things like that. Knitting small things and getting ready for like later. There's a difference of what to knit in the summer and what to knit for the summer. And maybe you could clarify which one you wanted to know there. Because like in the summer, you could definitely knit things like fingerless mitts, because they're not going to sit in your lap and it's not going to overwhelm you. And that's something you might, get a head start on your holiday gift knitting. Headbands are really super fun to knit, at least for me. And that is something that you can definitely wear in the summer. Or you can knit like snuggly headbands. And again, that's something that can be a preparation. But again, so like knitting if you're not trying to knit for something to wear in the summer, focusing on smaller things that are going to be done a little bit more quickly, and things that aren't going to create a volume of fabric that end up in your lap and making you hot. So hats, cowls, fingerless mitts, headbands, things like that. Scarves can get overwhelming depending on how big you're knitting them. It's large sweaters, things like that. If you're wanting to knit for the summer, tees, like literally knitting something like what I'm wearing right now. There are a lot of really cute patterns out there that are for t-shirts, that are just knitted tees. You can, and again, you want to knit with cotton, you want to knit with silk, you want to knit with hemp or linen or blends. There's some really good cotton wool blends out there, and cotton and wool can be a really good blend for the summer, because the wool brings a memory. Because one of the problems with cotton is cotton can really get bent out of shape and elongated because of the weight of it, and because it doesn't have any memory. And when you blend the cotton with the wool brings the memory and helps the garment maintain its shape better. And always, people are knitting socks all the time. People who want to knit socks, they're going to knit 24/7, 365. That is a sock knitting craziness. And headbands, I think headbands are really fun. You can knit some cool headbands. What else is there? But it's more about the fiber. If you're knitting in the summer and you're knitting for the summer, it's more about the fiber that you're knitting with that is going to make a huge impact on like how hot it is and how overwhelming it is. So, and I always knit shawls, but I can just knit shawls all day, every day. So that's just me. Okay. Okay, so knitting for the summer. I think I'm talking about those. I just looked down. So yes, so my preferred fibers for the summer, it's really what you think of as plant fibers plus silk, because silk is an insect fiber, but it behaves like a plant fiber. Linen, cotton, silk. Hemp, you can find hemp occasionally. Also, nylons. There are a lot of really nice lightweight nylons. That's where you get into your bamboo yarn, what they call bamboo yarns. Again, that's just no, rayons. Rayons. I didn't mean to say nylon, I meant to say rayon, but nylon's nice. Rayon. So you get into your bamboos and things like that. Those can be really nice. The garments that you end up with can be really nice, but rayons can be very slippery to knit. So you gotta balance that out. And as I said, the cotton wool blends, I really like how they work together. Or any of the plant fibers with just a touch of wool in them, because that, again, it brings a resilience and a memory to the structure. But linens, I really like linen. Linen's a little rough to work with, but it can be absolutely gorgeous. I think I have, no, I packed it. I was just sitting here going, I think I have a cotton sweater that I could show, a linen sweater I could show you, but it has been packed. Everything has been packed. Like half my life has been packed. And I'm trying to get my son to pack things, which is proving challenging. Okay, there was another question in here that I missed. Here it is. When did I start my knitting business? I learned to knit in 2010, and I published my first pattern in 2011. I would say that like I really started to decide that this was a business, that this is something that I could do and commit to and be serious about it when I attended my first TNNA, which was probably 2000. I'd have to look it up. It was the TNNA that was in Indianapolis. And I would say that that really was a turning point in, sorry, I'm sitting on this bed. I would say was a turning point in me going from not real sure if this was that I was the real deal, that I was doing this, that I was a professional designer, to being like, this is a business. This is what I'm going to do. Because I don't know what year that was. Actually, it's when I got this, because I planned a trip and I went to a one-off, beautifully fun conference called the Small Knits Symposium. And it was amazing. And then I drove to Louisville, which is where my aunt lived, and sat on her couch for approximately 8 to 12 hours knitting on something that needed to be knit. And then I went to Lamekins Hideaway in Hamilton, Ohio, and I taught there. And then I went to Indianapolis for TNNA, and that is where I turned in the sample for what became Courant, my shawl that was in I can't remember the name of it. It was a online magazine. It was an online Twist Collective. It was my first and only piece in Twist Collective. And I had to meet one of their editors at TNNA, and that's where I turned in the sample for that, which is why I had been knitting on it, because it had to be turned in. And I actually stayed with a lovely woman in Ohio and blocked it in her guest room. It was hilarious. But that, and I think that was 2013 or 2014. That is when I would say that my knitting business really actually started. So I hope that answers the knitting business thing. I should probably figure out exactly what that date is. Again, if I had my computer, I would be Googling TNNA in Indianapolis and finding out what year that was, because it was only in Indianapolis one year. The Small Knit Symposium was in Bloomington, so I went Bloomington, Louisville, Ohio, Indianapolis, and then I drove home. And I did all that by myself, and I was terrified the entire time and worried that I was just almost paralyzed with imposter syndrome. But it was, I'm proud of myself for having done it. It was very cool. I learned a lot. Okay, Cindy is asking me, do you have preferred recommended needle material for plant fibers? It depends on how you knit. Needles, as we've always discussed, are entirely like very personal preference kind of situations in general. The slipperier the yarn, the grabbier your needles should be. And then if you have grabby yarn, you need slippery needles. It's kind of a spectrum. With things like cotton and linen, people typically prefer wooden needles. If you find you are losing, and especially when you get into the rayons and the nylons, if you find you are losing your stitches, moving towards grabbier needles is your best bet. Now, you have grades of grabbiness even within wooden needles. With your the grabbiest needles you're going to get are going to be your uncoated bamboo needles. these are needles that are made out of bamboo, and they are not polished. They are kind of matte looking. Your typical clover wooden needle is gonna be like a bamboo needle, like that. And then you have your wooden needles that are like your polished birch needles, like tulip has a really, really nice bamboo needle. Um, and then you get into the laminated and polished wood needles like you're going to get from a knitter's pride, that they're really pretty. You can see the multiple layers in it, and it's wood that has been like laminated together and then polished to a very high sheen. And those, the more polished they are, the slipperier they're going to be. You get into your lantern moons, the black ones. Again, because they are highly polished, they are not as grabby. So again, there's this whole, how badly are those stitches falling off your needle? Hola! Hola, hola! How badly are they falling off? So it just depends on how those stitches, the materials is how the stitches slide on your needles, is really what it comes down to. If you don't have any problem with their falling off your needles, you can use a metal needle. I knit almost exclusively with metal needles. Every once in a while I'll pull out a wooden needle because I really like pointy needles, and your wooden needles do not hold as fine of a point as your metal needle does. But if I was knitting like something with like 100% rayon, I'm probably going to be knitting with a wooden needle, because otherwise I'm going to lose stitches because they're just going to go whee! It's going to go crazy. Okay. Oh, thank you, Elizabeth. May 13th. Okay, it's behind the heart. How can I see that? 2014. So I said it was 13 or 14. So 2014 is when I would say that my knitting business really like started. Now, interestingly enough, courant, the pattern that I was turning in to Twist Collective at the show, was the pattern that the editor at Stackpole Press saw, and then she contacted Twist Collective and got my contact information, and she contacted me, and that is when she asked me to write my first book, because she saw the technique that I had created for courant, that's the mosaic lace, and she was like, I want a whole book about that. So that is another reason why that really was like a pivotal moment, because that's when things started getting like serious business, as serious business as knitting can get, I guess. But yeah. And then I also made contacts and ended up joining Stitch Sprouts, so that the next time I went to TNNA, I was actually an exhibitor. And I exhibited at 2 or 3 different TNAs. So yeah, it changes. Okay, Kathy, do you think you will work in a yarn store in the future? You know what? If I can find a yarn store in the Seattle area that likes me and thinks I would be a good addition to their store, then I can definitely see working in a store again in the future. I thoroughly enjoyed working in a store. One of the things, and this is going to sound wild, one of my favorite things about working in a yarn store is fixing things. When people bring in like mistakes they've made and they need help figuring out how to fix it, I really enjoy doing that. Cindy. Okay, Cindy, what a story. Things really took off for you. It was weird. You never know what's going to happen. But yeah, from there, the book, and then, okay, so here's the thing. So I was writing my book. So I was writing my book, And in 2016, so the book was being written in 2015. In 2016, I decided to start this YouTube channel. And one of the primary reasons that I wanted to start this YouTube channel was to create content, well, to connect with the people who are knitting my patterns, but also I wanted to be able to put on the back on my book, for more information or to catch up with Barbara or whatever, go to Watch Barbara Knit. So really, but I was like, I don't want to just start a YouTube channel and it have like 2 videos when my book comes out. I didn't want it. I wanted, when people came to Watch Barbara Knit, if they read my book and saw that and came to Watch Barbara Knit, I wanted them to see a depth of information. I wanted them to see content, and for it to have been worth their while to visit Watch Barbara Knit. So I actually started Watch Barbara Knit in January of 2016 and spent like an entire year and a half. I can't remember exactly how the numbers all, but I spent a long time trying to get enough videos, or maybe it was when I think my book came out in 2016. Again, don't remember. But making videos so that there was a landing place for people who maybe were intrigued by my work, for them to come and check out more stuff and for me to connect with them. So the YouTube channel was really created to support the knitters who were knitting my patterns and single patterns, but then also with the idea that there would be future people who found me through the book and giving them a place to find me and get more information. And so that started all. I was very efficient at one point in my life. I had a very good bullet journal. Marzita, Marzita. I said hola earlier, but thank you. Michelle Hamilton. I do enjoy figuring out and fixing mistakes. I like seeing, it's a puzzle. It's a puzzle to me. And also I like making sure that the person who I'm helping is understanding what I'm doing so that they can maybe avoid the error in the future or help them figure it out in the future. I really enjoy teaching. But as I've said, I don't enjoy traveling. So being in a store and being able to teach. Oh my goodness, Robin. Hopefully I will teach again. Again, it's going to be if I find places to teach. I don't know that I will travel to teach. That is, I'm currently not doing that because of just, I don't travel well. By myself. It creates a lot of anxiety for me. See, Elizabeth, you are on the ball. So the book was in February of 2017. Yeah, so that's the thing. I spent an entire year trying to make sure I had enough content on Watch Barbara Knit that when people in February, when my book came out and when I was promoting my book and I was doing stuff out, that they would have something fun to look at. Desiree, will you stay in Seattle after my son graduates? I have not the earthliest idea. I cannot even think that far ahead because my son hasn't even been accepted to college yet. Well, he hasn't even applied, because if he applies right now, he will be out of state regardless of when we move. So he cannot apply until a year from now, once we have established 1 year in state residency. So I don't even know. I can't think that far ahead. Oh, Robin, I remember when you taught our guild in Clearwater. It was fabulous. That was super fun. That was shortly after I moved down. And so that's the thing. When I moved here, I reached out to local I made contact with local groups, and I do enjoy, and traveling like within an hour or two, not a problem at all. It's the I have to get on an airplane and I have to go someplace and I have to be incredibly stressed out. Primarily because when I travel with a lot of knitted samples and a lot of my work, and I have to entrust because I have to check suitcases and I have to entrust that the airline is not going to lose what is literally 10 years of work and thousands and thousands and thousands of dollars worth of samples to the gorilla in the hold. So I get a lot of anxiety when I travel. Okay, Michelle Hamilton said, that right there says you are a great teacher. I went to a knitting class once. When someone made a mistake, the teacher would just take it and fix it, no explanation. That's frustrating. That is frustrating. So yeah, I don't understand why a teacher would do that, but everybody has a different teaching style. I will say that most of the time when I am teaching, I don't allow people to fix their mistakes. I will come over, we will talk about what has happened, but if they just made the mistake, we'll fix it together. If we identify that you made a mistake like 2 rows back, there is only going forward. Because the classes move too fast, I'm like, you'll just have to live with the fact that that error was made and we will learn from it and we talk about what went wrong. But we only go forward. That is one of my policies in my classes. You go home to your own bed. That's exactly right, Elizabeth. There's a big difference between being in a hotel room, and even when you have the private hotel room, it's just a lot. It's a lot. And I enjoy meeting people. I really, really do. As I've said, if I could have a teleportation device, if I had a portal that I could just be like here and walk through that and then be at a convention or be at someone's yarn store and teach. I love meeting people. I love teaching. I love doing all of that kind of stuff. It's the in-betweens that, I mean, can you just freaking dart me? I mean, it's the traveling. I like it. LPGA, I cannot thank you enough for all the knowledge I acquired by simply watching your monthly podcast on YouTube. Last 3 years! You've been with me for 3 years, my golfer. Thank you so much. I'm glad that you, Lise, and I know that there hasn't been any new content. I really appreciate y'all's patience. I'm probably gonna once I get into the new digs and we have finished all of this chaos of moving, I'm hopefully we're gonna get some stuff out there. I do miss knitting actually. I thought initially when I was like, okay, I'm gonna pack everything up and I'm gonna just not worry about it. Initially I was like, oh, this is a relief. I don't have to stress about it. But now I'm getting antsy. I'm like, I was thinking yesterday, I'm like, I want to knit something. But I packed my knitting. I am getting antsy. I'm getting ideas and a little frustrated that I don't have my computer to put the ideas down. So it's gonna be interesting. It's gonna be interesting. Robin, I have done Zoom classes in the past. I've done them through other yarn stores, and I've only done them through yarn stores. I don't think I've ever done one, and that is one of the issues. Because if I try to do them myself, I have to figure out all of the logistics. And by logistics, I mean the money portion of it. So I have taught through A Good Yarn, and I taught through String Theory, which is in the Chicago area. And they handle all of the marketing. They handle all of the links. I just show up and teach the class. They handle the money, then they pay me a portion of the money. I would have to figure out squares, and I would have to figure out how the money works. I don't have pro Zoom. There's just logistics there that I am not at the point where I can do it myself. I'm not there yet. I'm not completely not ruling it out entirely. It's just I've not done it. Because it's like you get into this and then you got classes and then people start talking about refunds and then talk about, it's just, it's a little bit of a chaos. Thumbs up and subscribe. Thank you, Desiree. Okay. I do like Zoom classes. Zoom classes can be fun. They're good in their own way, because the way I have had the setup in the past is that I'm in the Zoom twice. I'm in as like a talking head, but also you can see my hands, and being able to show your hands close up as a demonstration kind of situation can actually in many ways be superior to in-person classes. But the downside is you don't get what we talked about making mistakes. I can't see your stuff. People holding it up to the screen like this, I can't identify. Somebody's like, I can't help them. I can't fix it. I can't get that part. So I really do prefer teaching in person. But yeah, Zoom is going to be on my list. Maybe I can figure it out. And maybe you're right. Maybe an LIS in Washington will adopt me. That would be ideal. That would be awesome. I hope, you just never know. But there are like 5 of them. So the odds are in my favor, I guess. Hopefully. Okay, this is starting to pinch. Sorry. I had to adjust my tiara. It's starting to squeeze my little cabeza. My cabeza is getting that squishy. I don't know if there are any local yarn stores out there with Miss Babs yarn. Babs only vends to like, I think 5. I think there are only 5 stores in the entire country that carry Miss Babs, because she's mostly direct sale. I do love Miss Babs. Now, I did in one of our last videos, we talked about there is a yarn dyer out there. Her name is Hazel Knits. And her stuff is gorgeous. Her yarn's absolutely gorgeous. And I know that I think there are several dyers, indie dyers out there. So hopefully I'll get to know them. And I think there are other designers out there. So I might be able to, connect with them, and they might have some guidance for me. You never know. It's going to be a lot, but mostly I'm going to be unpacking boxes. I think the unpacking of boxes is going to take a chunk of time. And all of those things. So I will be good. I don't understand that, but okay. Christina C, being able to explain how to fix a mistake is so valuable. Fixing it for someone doesn't help at all. Yeah, I don't understand. So I have, and it's actually, I think, my #1 most viewed video. And it's like five beginning mistakes and how to avoid them or something like that. And Longmont Yarns Fibers Knit Series. Ooh, I will look at that. What was I saying? I got distracted. The chat keeps popping up, and it is. I've been trying to focus so hard. I've been trying. The 5 things, and I very specifically made this video to teach people how to identify the mistake that they have made, and then how that mistake happened and what you should do to not make the mistake. It's twisted stitches, it's inadvertent yarn overs. It's showing people what they have done to make this mistake happen. That was the point of the video. And it is like a very, very highly viewed video. So I'm still getting comments on it, and I'll get these really kind of snarky comments where people say showing how to fix it would have been better. And I'm like, that wasn't the point of the video. The point of the video is not how to fix these mistakes. The point of this video is to help you not make these mistakes, because they're, you know, once you know what the problem was, it's easy to not do that. And then you don't ever have to worry about fixing it because you're not going to make the mistake. But the snarky comments kind of get on my nerves because I try to keep my videos relatively short. Y'all know that. Lives, not so much. Lives are not short. But I try to keep my videos relatively short because I have a short attention span and it's hard to maintain really close attention. And honestly, that video was one of the most challenging videos I've ever made because there is a lot. I had to create swatches that had those mistakes in them and then demonstrate. So I had to make like 5 different swatches. It was just a lot was going on in that video. It was a long, grueling video to make as far as videos go. And it just, when people make a snarky comment, it kind of, I mean, I don't want to say it hurts my feelings because I think I've gotten over that to an extent, but it's like, listen, it's free. Like, this is free. This is like, why you gotta be a smart aleck about it? I gave you this. If it didn't fulfill your wants and needs, and I'm sorry, but I'm not gonna say I'm sorry because I'm not sorry, because I made this and it did what I wanted it to do. The fact that it didn't do what you wanted it to do, make your own video. But if you haven't watched it, it is a good video. And it was, I can't remember what the 5 ones, because it's the things that beginning knitters do. Beginning knitters are always like, where'd this stitch go? Why do I have bonus stitches? Why does it look funny like that? Accidental short rows. There's all different kinds of things. Snarky comments come from not paying attention in the first place. That is an excellent, excellent point. Good evening, Joan. Thank you so much for joining us. Longmont yarn fiber sides knit. What that is? Thank you, Susan. I got my tiara on. I don't know if y'all can see. I don't know because I can't see what's going on here. The little balls, the little silver balls sticking up. It says, so they have letters, the silver one, and it says Pearly Bird, because it was only the first 5 people that made the made reservations for this event. The first 5 people got the Pearly Bird, Pearly Bird tiaras. She handmade them and brought them to people. And I was like, when she said she was going to do that, I was sitting there waiting for her to put up reservations. I'm like, I'm getting me a tiara. And I have carried it around everywhere. Christina C. I've watched that video several times because I had a hard time with identifying mistakes and reading my knitting when I was learning to knit. Reading your knitting is a really, really important thing. And it is one that I have actually got when I have my setup back. I've been thinking about how to make an effective video to teach people how to read their knitting, because it is a challenging thing to teach people how to do, but it is so very important to improving your skill set. Because if you can't read your knitting, as you said, you can't identify mistakes. You've created, and there are more advanced patterns that are going to say things like work in pattern. and those kinds of things are easier to do if you can read your knitting. Like if you can, like that, doing a seed stitch, doing a moss stitch. I mean, a seed stitch is really, really easy to do if you know that all you have to do is knit the purls and purl the knits. Yes, that's it. So when you're going along, if the next stitch looks like a purl, you knit it. If the next stitch looks like a knit, you purl it. You just know that that is what you do. And if you read as you're going, you don't even have to really look at the pattern. And identifying mistakes, it's really important. Lace, doing any level of lace above basic lace without being able to read your knitting is really, really challenging, because you need to be able to look at it. You need to be able to look at your work and decide, is that a knit two together? Is that a slip knit? Was that a slip one knit two together, pass stitch, slip stitch over? Is that a center double decrease? What is happening? Which direction are these things going? And being able to, when you've run out of stitch, like lost a stitch, identifying, looking at and reading and figuring out where it's supposed to be. Two knits, a purl, a yarn over, a purl, and reading through to find where there are two purls that don't have that yarn over between them, because that's where your problem is. So yeah, excellent point. So important. Susan, I know when I hadn't been knitting very long, I was creating those unintentional yarn overs while using stitch markers. It took me paying much closer attention to avoid them. Yeah, you gotta pay attention. Your first scarf started as 25 stitches per row and ended as 32. Whoopsie! Yes, reading your knitting is especially important if you have to tink. So unintentional yarn overs and stitch markers are a major thing, and if it continues to be a little bit stressful for you, something that can be beneficial there is experimenting with different stitch markers, because some stitch markers are more prone to encourage that extra yarn over than others. I have absolutely everything packed. I try to make sure that my stitch markers are, the part that goes around the needle is as thin as possible. I know that the just metal rings are very popular, but I do not particularly care for them because they're usually a little chunkier than I like, and they do cause issues for me. My preferred ones are the ones that are almost on like, well, it's in jeweler's talk, it's called rat tail. It's on like a thin plastic covered metal band that has like beads or something, that it's like elongated, and that is my preferred kind of stitch marker, that is really fine so that it doesn't in any way interfere. Because I have actually had situations where I tried to use a stitch marker that actually caused a gap, like almost a ladder, because it was big enough that it was causing me to not have the same tension between the two stitch. So you've got the two columns, and because that stitch marker was there, they were just slightly apart as opposed to being right up against each other, and it actually ended up being visible. I mean, it blocked out, but I like little skinny ones. Yes, the thin light bulb stitch markers are excellent. They are also really good because they are removable stitch markers, because removable stitch markers have a multitude of uses, not limited to marking right side to wrong side, or catching a catching a drop stitch and pinning it to the fabric. I mean, there's just any number of amazing things you can do with those little light bulb stitch markers. And they are very thin. They're thinner than the ring ones that I was talking about. Hey, Mark the bass player, welcome. You like the metal triangles, Robin. That's interesting. I know a lot of people do, and the people I know who really like the metal stitch marker, the triangles, are the ones who can knit without looking because they're feeling for those stitch markers. And that is a whole nother reason to use stitch markers. So the triangles, because the thing is when I knit, and I know many of you heard me say that, I have like a death grip. I like have the whole needle inside my fist. And I don't like the metal stitch markers because they pinch. I have them under my hands and they irritate me, which is why I like the really little thin ones. It's all personal preference, and there's reasons for all of them. Hello, Valeda, aka Val. Christina C. I keep finding those light bulb shaped pins on clothing tags on sweaters and certain retailers. I keep them, reuse them. That is smart. That is super smart. That is a great thing. You know what? But you can do, there have been times where I have used a bread twisty tie as a stitch marker. Just frankly taking a piece of yarn and tying it around the needle and like snipping it off, that stitch marker. People use that. I think that my grand MacGyver moment was when I was actually working on a pattern for my second book. And I was a chaperone when my son's class was going to see the Lion King musical, and I had to knit. I was on production mode, and so I went and I sat out in the lobby while they attended the Lion King. They just needed me like in a car. And it was the Abasarala pattern, which has a, knit a certain distance, and then I had to transfer some yarn to waste yarn. And I got further than I thought I was going to get. And I was at the point where I needed to transfer to waste yarn. And it was like 20, I mean, it was a chunk. And I was like, oh my gosh, what am I going to do? And I dug through my purse and I pulled out the charging cord for my phone. And I transferred the stitches onto the charging cord for my phone to hold them until later. So that was probably my best MacGyver moment. The triangles don't let stitches slip past them, and I need to remember that because that is a very good reason to use them. And I remember someone coming into the store and one of my co-workers recommending those because that is an excellent point. Again, there's a reason for all of these tools. They're made for a reason that somebody found. Every invention is someone finding something that like didn't work for them and figuring out how to overcome that challenge. Oh, my nose ditched. I'm just sorry. You can see, as the sun has gone down, the lighting in here has really changed, and I'm noticing other things in my background. Like my clock, and I was just making sure there's nothing weird in the background. Yes, I used to buy all kinds of stuff off of Etsy. I don't really buy much of anything anymore right now because I'm in the get stuff out of my house mode. I don't know. Can you guys see my bird pictures? My cool bird pictures? I've had those for a very long time. Those, I'm going to tell you just for absolutely no reason, these cool psychedelic looking birds, right? That are framed behind me. Those birds were part of a calendar that my mother had when she was in college. So in the late 60s, she had this watercolor creatures. There's a lot of different, but there were two birds in there. And there was one time I was home and she was going through stuff and she was like, "Hey, I found this under my bed. Do you want it?" And I was like, "I'll take the birds." And I had them framed because I just think they are totally wild looking and they have this kind of psychedelic look to them. This makes sense from the 60s, but it's weird art, you know, and I'm pretty sure nobody else is going to have it. Okay, Christine C. For anyone who has kids ages 4 to 12, if they have those rainbow looms, yes. They're great stitch markers. Hello, Holly. How you doing? We have several other Canadians in here, or at least we did. I hope you're having fun up there. We have just been chatting on about all kinds of stuff. Does anybody have any more questions? Because I think we've covered quite a few knitting things. You want to, okay, let me see if I can show you the pictures. I'm going to have to get off the bed. They're bigger than you probably thought they are. Okay. Look at them. Isn't that a wacky looking creature? It's got a name on it, but I have no idea. So that's one of them. He's kind of the peacocky one. I don't think either of them are actual birds. They're heavy, so I'm going around behind. This one. They're dusty. They need to be cleaned. His head is magnificent. Okay. Gosh, they're heavy. I can make a whole bunny out of the dust behind here. I'll have to fix that. Okay. I'm back. I found some tape. And I found some dust. Okay. Whew. Yeah, number 2 bird is kind of freaky looking. It was a huge calendar. She found some more because the other things were like, I think there was like an elephant. There were all kind of imaginative variants on exotic creatures. These were the only 2 birds. And I have a bird thing, so I thought they were good. I don't know how they could possibly be shawls, Cindy. You're wacky. But I can think about it. I love the colors. I love the colors in them. They've got that kind of, it's a different era. It has it reminds me of some of the 60s and early 70s albums covers that I've seen. It's that very distinct, that time period. It's very distinct. But I do love, I don't know if you saw when I pulled them down, they're damaged because they were on my mantle for the longest time, and my cockatiels would sit on the mantle and chew on them. And so they've chewed chunks of it off. And there's a part of me that wants, that I'm like, I really should have these reframed. I should have these frames repaired. But the pair of birds that caused the damage, I no longer have them. I lost, they passed away. So there's a part of me that doesn't want to fix them because it's every time I see them, it reminds me of Cassidy and Dagny, which I had them for 15 or 16 years. And, I know that birds are not everybody's cup of tea, but I know most people have had a dog or a cat. and can understand that you get attached to them. It's the same thing. So I'm like, I should fix it, but I don't want to fix it. So they've just been in the not fixed category of things. The colors and the feathers, yes, they're very cool. Robin, you were in college in 67 to 71, had a cockatiel who talked all the time. None of my cockatiels have ever talked, but they do make noise. They are good at making noise. My son and I have had a conversation about our current cockatiels, and we're pretty sure they are made up entirely of floof and anger. That would be what they're made out of. You know, they talk about, you know, what's something in snails and puppy dog tails. Yeah, cockatiels are made out of floof and anger. They're just mad all the time. They're hilarious. There was so much dust up there. I really haven't moved those things. I mean, who moves those things? I'm gonna have to dust. We've been stirring up a lot of dust. If there are two birds, they talk to each other, but not people. You know what? Cassidy and Dagny, the two I was talking to, they didn't like each other. I mean, they tolerated each other. And the two we have, they're sisters. They don't like each other. I mean, they don't get near each other. They don't groom each other. I mean, I think that if they were completely separated, they'd be like lonely, but they're not friends. They're sisters. Same time next month. Yes, my plan is same time next month. Elizabeth, since you've been doing so well with dates, what do you know what the May is? I can't do that math. I love that you keep me on task, Elizabeth. You are the best. And that was dust. Okay, let's see what else we've got going on here. Does anyone have a knitting question that we need to hit? May 29th. Oh, so it's almost the end. So yeah, we'll be okay. We'll be okay. That'll be far enough away. My only concern was, you know what? I don't think about dates very well. My son is graduating. I think it's May 16th. So it'll be May 20, the 29th. Actually, he might be gone. For graduation, he's going to the MomoCon one last time. MomoCon is a convention in Atlanta that he has been going to since he was fairly young, like 11, 12 years old, maybe younger, 9, 10. And this will be his last opportunity really to go, because it's not a big enough con for him to fly clear across the country to, but it's a very sentimental con for him. So he will probably be going to that. Ooh, kids grow up way too fast, don't they? You know, probably. But he's still here. He's still very much like here. So I don't see him going anywhere too soon. But he's a good kid. Okay. Valeda Jennings, aka Val, when might I need to teak? Okay, so I'm just going to say this just in case, because there's very high probability that was a typo, but I just want to make sure I clarify. The word you're looking for is steek, S-T-E-E-K. And if that's what you think, steeking is when you cut your knitting, but in a very specific way. I believe that steeking initially, okay. Steeking pretty much exists because knitting colorwork flat, knitting stranded colorwork flat is a giant pain in the butt. That is pretty much why steeking exists. Because when you have to turn it over and work your colorwork backwards, you're purling, you're having to manage floats. Stranded knitting is, and I can't remember which, it's one of the like northern Scandinavian style. I don't know if it's Norway or Finland. I don't know what country it is where it started. I wouldn't be surprised if there weren't arguments about it. But what you're talking about is these traditional color work sweaters that are elaborately stranded. And steeking, the reason why it was created is so that you can knit these elaborate sweaters in the round, but then retroactively turn them into a cardigan. And the color work pattern is planned with a visible like stripe down the middle and it's planned with extra stitches so that once you've cut it for A, that where you cut it is very easily identified, and B, once you've cut it, you can sew it, turn and sew it just like any other fabric. So times you would want to steek is almost always going to be in association with doing some sort of stranded color work. One of the beginning steeking patterns I've seen that's really good, if you can find out a Ravelry, is a wrist warmer. And it has mushrooms on it. So you're doing stranded work and then you just cut it up the middle and it walks you through how to do that. But it's a very small piece that doesn't have, like if you screw it up, the investment is mine. The time and materials investment is minor. So if you want to learn how to steek, finding something that is a small project specifically designed for steeking, which is definitely something that's out there. Again, I've seen the mushroom wrist warmers. I'm trying to think of something else, but most of the I cannot think. I'm not saying they don't exist, but I cannot think of any context in which you would be steeking that is not going to involve stranded color work, because like that, it's to allow you to avoid working flat. And I can't think of any other, but there totally could be. But the answer is when you're doing stranded color work and you want to take something that was knit in the round and make it into a not sealed tube. Favorite owl pattern? If I were on my computer, I could probably pull up some owl patterns for you. Unfortunately, I do not have that in front of me, so I'm not going to be able to. I'm sorry, Kathy. I wish I could. Oh, are we saying cowl? Robin, yes. Robin made a good point here. She said it must be wool. And I'm going to say there are some absolutely living by the edge people out there who do steek non-wool fibers. I'm not saying it's a good idea, but the vast, vast, vast majority of projects, if you're going to steek, you need to be using a wool fiber yarn, and really you want to use a non-superwash wool fiber yarn, because steeking relies on the nature of wool to grab onto itself. That is why when you cut it, it doesn't just go free. If you used like silk, you're done. There's no way. And the wild thing is you can actually do like this steeking, just like when people do zippers, you can actually use a sewing machine because it's fabric. It's just fabric. But yes, that's an excellent point, Robin. Most of the time, 99% of the time, you're talking about a wool piece that you are creating. Just for complete transparency, I have never steeked anything. Nada. Zero. It is not something that is a skill that I have. I honestly don't intend to acquire it as a skill. This is not, no, you like my sound effects. Well, thank you, Michelle. I appreciate it. I have not steeked. I can conjugate that. I have not steeked. I will not steek. I shall not steek. Steeking is not something that is in my my plans. I totally understand, but I understand why. This is, this is the whole education versus experience. It's one of the reasons why when y'all come at me with questions about garments, I can understand, like, I understand how raglan works. I understand how a lot of these things work because I've read enough patterns and I've researched it and I've talked to other people about it, but I don't consider myself an expert in it because it's not something I've ever done and really not even something I'm particularly interested in doing. Steeking is very high on my lists of keep those scissors away from my stuff. This is a no for me. Robin, I practiced once on a knitted garment that was going to the garbage. It makes me nervous. I can't. It makes me twitchy just thinking about it. But there are people who do it all the time, so it works. You see patterns that tell you to reverse knit. Is it really that different from purling? I'd be super curious what patterns, because I've never seen a pattern that called for that, but that doesn't mean it doesn't exist. I'm curious with now. I take that back. So one of the places where reverse knitting I have seen, and I actually took a class on reverse knitting, is entrelac. If you're doing entrelac, reverse knitting can be very useful. And it's simply because when you do entrelac, if you don't do reverse knitting, you are literally like knit 6 stitches, turn it over, knit 6 stitches, purl stitch, flip, 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 and repeatedly all the way across the row. I can see reverse knitting being useful in short rows if you have lots of little short rows, but functionally, I don't know that there's much of a difference. Functionally, I mean, as long as it creates a knit stitch on the front side, that's what you're going for. Now, there could be difference in tension, especially like if you have a habit of rowing out on your purl rows, that might be an issue, but functionally, I don't know that it would be that much different. And that's the thing, in entrelac patterns, they're not going to necessarily tell you to reverse knit. And if you did, even if they do tell you to do reverse knitting, if you purled, it would not break it. It's not going to like make it explode or melt down or turn into like an Ouroboros and eat itself. It's just, it's just a different way of approaching a solution to a problem. But I don't know. Okay, I just saw myself do something that I did like 5 seconds ago. It's really strange to have the delay on the thing, but I gotta look down here and how has this been working out for y'all? This completely cobbled together setup that I have here. Is it working? Is it annoying to watch me look down here and look at the I really want, I mean, so much of these lives is the interaction with y'all. And, well, I mean, actually, no, I'm not going to even say that. 100% of this live is about the interaction with y'all. And I really wanted to be able to see the live chat because the way that is working on my phone is that it like pops up, but then fades away. And I can't go back. I can't get close enough to it. It's a pain. Okay, Christina C is saying, thank you. That makes me feel better that it has worked. That I know it's not as exciting of a background. That's why I showed you my birds. You think I'm reversed? There's a very distinct possible. Hello, Joe. Welcome. Yeah, I probably am reversed. That doesn't surprise me. It's hard for me to tell. Oh, I know what to do. Okay, now I gotta wait a few seconds for it to come through. Okay. There you go. Now I'm doing it. Yep, it's reversed. The clock says it's reversed. I moved the clock and you can tell it definitely reversed. Oh, my golfer. You can tell by my hair because the short's on the wrong side. My hair, yeah, the right side of my hair is shorter. Actually, I was just talking to my husband this morning. It needs to be shaved. It's getting way too long. It's starting. Actually, what I know, it's getting way too long when my sideburn tries to start curling. I'm like, no, you're like 3/4 of an inch long. You cannot just independently curl all on your own decision making process. No, sideburn, you're stupid. Um, but yeah, it's backwards. That's interesting. Huh. Oh well, it is what it is. It is what it is. I do not know how to fix it. The problem we had at the beginning, why I was a little bit late, was because I thought I had it all set up. I pushed the go live button and it said reorient your format or turn your device, because I wanted it horizontal, and apparently I had pushed the wrong button and it was thinking it was supposed to be vertical, which is why my tech support was in here at the beginning, because I was like, how do we fix this? How it did not, because my phone didn't want to turn because the fancy stand he has it in was objecting to turning. Why does tech make our life so much harder? But it's okay. It's okay if I'm reversed. It doesn't really, okay, as long as it doesn't bug you guys too much that I'm reversed. Because I do not know how to fix it. Hello, Andrea. I don't know how to fix it at all. There are buttons. Um, More likely not, I'll end up just hanging up. What does that do? That did nothing. That did nothing. Okay. We had a great question about steeking. Thank you for the knitting question. Does anyone else have, we aren't reading. Excellent. I don't have anything for you to read. I packed it all. It takes a computer to really screw things up. Yes, I agree. Michelle, I appreciate y'all spending your time with me. Okay. This is really the highlight, being able to talk to y'all about just random stuff and knitting and maybe make my brain work a little bit, because especially right now, my life is full of all kinds of stuff that have to be done, that none of it's particularly fun, but all of it has to happen. We had to have our driveway repaired. We're going to have our roof repaired. We're going to have our outside of our house painted. We're going to have, I mean, it's just, at some point we're going to have to do something about our garage because it's full of stuff. So it's wonderful to be here with y'all and think about fun stuff as opposed to stuff that just has to be thought about. So we're coming up on 2 hours, so we should probably wrap things up. Do y'all have any more knitting questions? Fiber questions, needle questions, stitch marker questions, any of those? Because the steep question was excellent. 1-800 got junk. Okay, but there's stuff that's not junk in there, unfortunately. Have you gotten a lot of knitting done, Kara? You did the cross country move 2 years ago. Totally emphasize. Yeah, it makes you really look at what you have and what you need. Thank you, my golfer. I'm glad you got a lot of knitting done, Kara. Just hang out and sit. I appreciate you coming, Mr. Mark, the bass player. So I was digging through, we're packing up my son's room, and in the top of his closet, I found a kick pedal for a drum. I'm like, why do you have this? You've never played the drums. But he has it. I don't know why. And I looked at it, and he's like, "Oh, well, I got that, and it's actually something fancy." And I'm like, "What is it?" So what I've been doing for a lot of things is I have a Samsung phone. So I take a picture of it, and then I use Google Lens. If you use Google Lens, it shows the picture, and then it automatically searches the internet for it. And this freaking kick pedal is like worth $300. I'm like, well, what? It's like from the 70s. I don't know how he acquired it, but we got it. So he's like, no, you can't get rid of that. I'm like, fine. We shall put it back in, and it will go live in another closet for 8 years before we figure out what in the world to do with it. It's totally random, Mark. I'm just like, what? Why? Why do we have this? So many things. Yeah, dude, what is this 300? I'm like, what is this thing? But apparently it's some fancy one that people like. And they don't make them like that anymore. I think there's a lot of they don't make them like that anymore. That happens. A lot of that kind of stuff. I've been selling a lot of stuff on Facebook Marketplace. Actually, I've been putting a lot of stuff on Facebook Marketplace that's just like, come get this for free. Make it go away. Andrea, you're right. You do pay by the pound. And that is one of the things we've been seriously looking at. I think we're going to use pods, the pod thing. So I don't know. Okay. Looks like 50-year-old bass guitar, because they don't make them like that anymore. How do I stay motivated enough to finish a project? Daniela, I hope that's correct. How do you stay motivated enough to finish a project? Unfortunately, I don't have a relatable answer for that, because this is my job. The thing that motivates me to finish a project is that people will not buy a pattern of something that they can't see a picture of. So I have to finish it so that I can take a picture of it so that I can get other people to buy it and make it. So that is my primary motivation. And my primary motivation is not the same as a hobby knitters or a person who knits for pleasure. It sounds like if you have challenges finishing projects, that you may be more of a process knitter than a project knitter. People who are project knitters very, very much want the thing. Whatever they're working on, they want it. They want it so bad they can taste it. So their motivation to finish it is they want to have the shiny thing. Process, on the complete other end of the spectrum, is your process knitter, and your process knitter simply enjoys the process of knitting. They just like to knit, and sometimes once they've figured out whatever challenge it was, you get bored. You're like, okay, I enjoyed this knitting, but now I want something new to knit on that's different, and different yarn and different whatever. Because all they really enjoy is the process of knitting, or the process of learning something, or the process, and it does become challenging to finish it. I can tell you that if I did not have to write the pattern, take the pictures, and publish it, there are lots of projects I would have never finished, because once I hit the point where I know the pattern's going to work, that my ideas have come to fruition, and that I know it's just I have to repeat rows 1 through 25 16 more times, I don't want to, I'm done knitting. I don't want to knit anymore. But it's got to be done. I enjoy swatching. Like, I would rather swatch than knit on something, because swatching allows me to play with new things constantly. So you need to pick out projects that you definitely want the finished object, or maybe focus on smaller things. Like figure out where your sweet spot is with how much time you can spend on something before you get bored. And maybe instead of trying to knit a sweater, make a cowl or a hat or something smaller that you have the stamina to finish if you want to finish things. Other things, like if you want to make like a big blanket or something, things that are modular where you're finishing multiple small things can also be very motivating. But it just, if you don't feel like finishing it, then maybe you just don't want it enough. And pick something else out. I mean, it's just fun. It's what you're doing for entertainment. If you don't necessarily want or need that finished object, what's wrong with not finishing it? If you are done, if you no longer enjoy it, frog it, use the yarn for something else. Like there's nobody saying that you have to finish what you start. You don't. I'm not going to tell you. I don't know that anybody else is going to say, oh, you failed because you didn't finish that. No, if you started it, if you were enjoying it, and then you're not enjoying it anymore, you're doing this to have fun. You're doing this to enjoy it. Just don't do it. Do something else. I mean, there's no failure. There's no moral failing in not finishing a project. The number of people I know that have sweaters that are complete up to missing one arm that have been in sleeping for like freaking 8 years, it's okay. You enjoyed that for the amount of time that you were making it, and that in of itself was worth the investment in the yarn and needles. I mean, you don't have to finish it. If you really want to finish it, I don't know, you would finish it, I guess. I don't know. I don't know if that helped. I don't know if that helped. But that, again, my finishing is to be able to take a picture of it. Maybe if you like showing it off to your friends, that will motivate you. But you can always just pull it out and use the yarn for something else. Okay. So thank you all very much for being with me. We've been chatting for quite some time. We will definitely be back next month. And I will be even more of a basket case because we will be even closer to our move. In the in-between time, if you have any questions or you want to chat at all, you can always come to the Watch Barbara Knit Facebook group. We love being in there, and I love seeing you there. Thank you all so much. And I got lots of stuff to think. Now I got to think about what I could knit inspired by my birds. So, okay, everybody. Thank you. Good luck with packing. Thank you, Robin. We're almost out of tape. We need to get new tape. Yeah, it was 2 hours. It's wild. Thank you for joining, Holly. Once I get out in Seattle and I get my computer set back up, I may see you in Azeroth. So that could be fun. Okay. I'll talk to you all later. You are keeping me grounded. Thank you so much. Because that is an excellent way to say. Okay. We got to shut it off. Oh, I got to get close enough. My bed's very squishy. Okay. Bye-bye, guys. I think that works. No. Yes. Okay.